Let me share my slide. Good afternoon. So today's class, we'll be talking about the cell. Are we together?
Yes, sir.
Good afternoon. Hello?
Yes. Yes.
Good. So the cell is the basic unit of existence. You know, for everything, there's always a simplest form for it. So for living things, their own simplest form is the cell. So the cell is regarded as the simplest basic structural and functional unit of life. So it is the cell that enables living things to carry out all characteristics of life, be it excretion, reproduction, and etc. So for that, cells exist in different forms among living things. So cell exists in 4 different forms. We have cell as a free living organism, an organism that is free living, that is independent. That is cell as a single unit. We have cell as a colony. We have cell as a filament. And we also have cell as organization of life. Now let's start with the first one. Cell as a free living organism. Now for this part, organism under this part, they are unicellular organisms. There's organisms in which their cells is only one. They don't have more than one cell. So this makes this organism to be independent and free living. There is no necessity for one cell to work with another cell before functionality occurs. Just one cell does all the characteristics of life: excretion, reproduction, sensitivity, etc. So organisms under this part, they are free living organisms. So they possess only one cell and capable of doing every characteristics of life, be it feeding, movement, excretion, growth. They can do everything, even with the fact that they have only one cell. Example includes the amoeba, Euglena, Paramecium, and Chlamydomonas. So all these organisms are capable of living independently and free living. Now compare this organism with multicellular organisms. Like we human beings, we have millions of cells in our body. So each cell has to work together with another cell before they can carry out the characteristics of life. But this is different for free living organisms. Just one cell carry out all the characteristics of life. So that is that about cell as a single cell. Now, cell as a colony. You know, when we say colony, that is a group of something. That's the main meaning of colony. Now, when we say cell as a colony, it involves organisms that are made up of similar cells, which are joined together and cannot be differentiated from each other. So in colony, the cells are joined together in organisms that possess it. So These cells are arranged in two or more cells and cannot be differentiated from each other. That is, the cells are alike for colony. The cells are alike. So organisms in this aspect, they have more than one cells. So all of the cells are now joined together. They are joined together from one end to another end and cannot be differentiated. That is, they are all alike. So example of organisms that possess colony, that live as colony, we have the protists, which includes the volvox, pandorina, sponges, and etc. So in this case, when we say living as a colony, you working together. Meaning of colony. When we say colony, that is a group of people that works together to achieve something. So that same meaning applies to this also. Their cells, they are all similar and they all work together to achieve a certain function. So that's that about colony. We also have cell as a filament. Now, for this part, it's somehow similar to colony, but there's a big difference. The difference is that this filament also contains more than one cell. But the difference there is just that the cells are organized into filaments and they are very identical. So in filament, the cells are joined from one end to another end. From one end to another end. From one end to another end. Like a straight chain. As our cells are arranged in filaments. So like a straight chain to form unbranched filaments. So in filament, the cells are joined from one end to another end. But as a colony, the cell, they form a mass for colony. Cells in colony form a mass, while cells in filament are joined from one end to another end. And each has its specific functions. So we have, for filament, some of the organisms are multicellular. So examples of organisms that exhibit filamentous are Spirogyra. We have the Spirogyra, we have the Zygnema, the Oscillatoria, Cladophora, Olotrix, Oidogonium. So all these organisms, they exist as filaments. That is because the cells in them are arranged, joined from one end to another end, from one end to another end. And they are this is why these organisms are categorized as filamentous organisms. They are called filamentous organisms. So that is that about filaments. So you should be able to differentiate between cell as a colony and cell as a filament. Because cell as a colony, they are not joined end to end. For cell as a colony, they are not joined end to end. But cell as a filament, they are joined from one end to another end, from one end to another end, to perform the characteristics of life. Now, cell as part of a living organisms. This is where we fall, me and you, we human beings, animals, plants, we fall under this category, cell as a part of a living organisms. Now, if you look at yourself, look at myself, you realize that part of us, we have cells in our body. What makes us up is cells. So this is what this part is telling us. So in generally, cell as a part of living organisms, they are multicellular organisms. There's no unicellular organism under this form. You can never, a unicellular organism is not categorized under this form. So they are all the organisms under cell as part of a living organism are multicellular organisms. So in this part, when I was explaining single cell as free living organism, I said they are independent. Now in this part, cell as a living organism, they are interdependent. That is, one cell depends on another cell. One cell depends on another cell before they can carry out specific functions. That is for cell as a part of the living organisms. Now, in this aspect, the cells of the multicellular organisms are arranged together. That is, many cells, millions of cells are arranged together to perform a specific function. And when this occurs, it gives another form of something else, which is called a tissue. That is, a tissue is a group of cells, so many cells coming together, forming a layer to perform a specific function. Example of tissue in our body, we have the cartilage. Cartilage in our ear is a tissue. The bone in our body is a tissue. So all of these are tissues in our body. So it is the cells that come together. They come together to form that tissue. Now, when that is established, a continuation occurs whereby that same tissue will come together. They'll come together to form a layer to perform a specific function. So when this occurs, the layer being formed by so many tissue is known as an organ. It's known as an organ. For example, you check your body, you realize you have nose, you have mouth, you have ear. All of these are organs formed from tissue. It didn't just come like that. It doesn't disappear just like that. It is those tissue that come together to form the nose you have, the mouth you have, etc. like that. So it is the coming together of tissues that give rise to organ. Your kidney, your liver, all of these are formed from the coming together of tissues. There's a constitution again. The organs also come together. The organs, they come together to perform a specific function. This gives rise to what we call system. That's why in our body system, we have different systems in our body. Now, if that is one system contains so many organs. One system contains so many organs. So we have example of system. We have a digestive system, reproductive system, excretory system, endocrine system, etc. So this is cell as part of living organisms. So in a summary, the cells comes together, form a tissue, they perform a specific function. The tissue comes together, forms organ, perform a specific function. The organ comes together, forms system to perform a specific function. Now, all of these systems working together, the system, the organ, the system, the organ, the tissue, the cells, all of it. So all of this system, they work together. The cell, the organ, the tissue, the system, they are working together to create a multicellular organisms. So, in a nutshell, mammals, animals, multicellular organisms are made from this, all of this, that is the cell, the tissue, organ, and system. Now, example of organisms, or let me say, or example of cells as part of a living organism, we have the cheek cell, the cells in our cheek, the onion cell, that is in plants, the epidermal cell in plants, the cell, the sperm cell, the egg cell. So all of these are examples of cell as part of a living organisms. Now let's move to the cell structures and their functions, because a cell contains organelles. It contains some things that makes it to function. For example, now, you as a human being, you have so many parts that makes it to function. You are able to walk from one place to another because you have legs. You are able to see because you have eye. You are able to taste food because you have tongue. This is also applicable to cell. Cells are able to perform certain functions because of it contains some organelles. Now, a cell of living organisms is surrounded by a membrane called the plasma membrane. But in the case of plants, a plant is also surrounded by cell wall. And animals are not surrounded by, animal cells are not surrounded by cell wall, but plant cells are surrounded by cell wall. So the protoplasm is made up of two major parts. When we say protoplasm, we are referring to the living material of cell, that is the entire cell as a whole. So in a simple way, the cell is made up of two major parts, which is the cytoplasm and the nucleus. Okay, it is the cytoplasm that contains all the cell organelles, which are cellular structures with specific functions. The cytoplasm is just like a fluid that contains all other organelles in the cell. And the nucleus is the largest cellular organelles. So the nucleus contains the chromosomes, while all other cells are found in the cytoplasm. Now, cells, the nucleus have some specific functions that it performs. One, exchange of material. It is the nucleus that enables material to be exchanged from the cytoplasm to the nucleus. You know, as so far the nucleus contains chromosomes, so it allows storage of hereditary information. That is, when there's a reproduction, sexual reproduction to be specific, the child will have, well, let me say the young one will possess some characteristics of its parents. It's because of the nucleus in the cell of that child, which has allowed transmission of hereditary information. It also controls the cellular activity. It is the nucleus that controls, we can just say the nucleus is the master of all organelles. It's the master of all organelles. Now, the image here is the structure of a typical animal cell. I believe you can see this. Hello?
Yes.
Can you see the? Okay, good. Now, for animal cell, don't forget, animal cell does not have cell wall. See, it's only surrounded by what? A plasma membrane. There is no cell wall there. And this is the typical structure of animal cells, the mitochondria, the ribosomes, and etc. While here we have plant cell. You can see that for the plant cell here, it is surrounded by cell wall. We have cell wall here. That middle part is the cell wall, while the inner lines is this plasma membrane. And you can see it contains nucleus. It also contains nucleus, the mitochondria, and the chloroplast, etc. So this is the typical structure of a plant cell. Don't forget, the plant cell will contain chloroplast, while the animal cell will not contain chloroplast. So let's see functions of these organelles. Now, the mitochondria, let's start with the mitochondria. The mitochondria serve as the house. It's also known as the powerhouse. That is the powerhouse of the cell, because it is at the mitochondria that respiration takes place, which gives energy. So that's why it's referred to as powerhouse. So, you know, when you say powerhouse, that is that place where energy is being derived. So mitochondria is referred to as the powerhouse because it is where energy takes place, where energy is being produced. We also have the vacuole. The vacuole contains cell sap. The vacuole serves as an osmoregulator. When we say osmoregulator, means the removal of water, excess water from body. So it is the vacuole that helps the cell to remove those excess water from the cells. We also have the endoplasmic reticulum. Now, endoplasmic reticulum is of two. We have the rough endoplasmic reticulum and the smooth endoplasmic reticulum. So the rough is used for protein synthesis and transportation, while the smooth is used to synthesize lipids. When we say synthesize something, synthesize means to produce. That is, it is used to produce lipids and steroids. We also have the Golgi body, which is used for distribution of materials, or packaging and distribution of materials. The chloroplast, this is common only in plant cell, the chloroplast. So it contains chlorophyll and is used for photosynthesis. As you know that plants cannot undergo photosynthesis without the chlorophyll. It's not possible. So it is the chloroplast that houses the chlorophyll. Then we also have the lysosome, which is the site for production of enzymes in our body. The ribosome also for production of protein in our body. We also have the centriole, which is involved in cell division. That is, when cells undergoes division, that is the mitosis and the meiosis, it is the centrioles that is involved in this part. We also have the cell membrane. The cell membrane, which is also called plasma membrane. It is flexible. So it controls, it is the plasma membrane that surrounds the cells. Now, so it controls materials entering or leaving the cell as its function, just like the gatesman. As the gatesman in every house, a gatesman will be there, will control those that enter the house and leave the house. That is the function of the plasma membrane. It does the same thing. So it controls those materials that enters the cell and leaves the cell. Then we have the cell wall. The cell wall protects the cell by providing mechanical support in plants. So let's see it this way. The animal cell, they have only one gatesman, which is the cell membrane. So that helps to control materials entering or leaving. But the plant cell, they have both plasma membrane and cell wall, again, which helps to give the plant support, So this is the function of the cell organelles. Now we talk about the differences between the plant and animal cell. Differences between plant and animal cells. So with my previous explanation, you should be able to state some differences. But let's just explain this also. A plant cell has chloroplast. Why? Because the chloroplast contains the chlorophyll, which allows photosynthesis in plants. Animals does not need photosynthesis. They don't need chlorophyll. For that reason, animals has no chloroplast. They have no chloroplast. The plant cell is regular and definite in shape. That's a definite shape. But animal cells is usually spherical. We can't actually say the actual shape of the animal cell. Another difference is that the plant cell, they have rigid cell wall, rigid, strong cell wall. But animal cell has no cell wall. That is, they only have plasma membrane. They have no cell wall. In the plant cell, centrioles are absent. Why is centriole absent in plant cell? Because the main function of the centriole is to enable cell division. As division of the cells. And plant cells don't undergo, they don't undergo mitosis, meiosis, cell division, and things like that. That's why in the plant cell, there is no centrioles. But in animal cell, there's a presence of centrioles. For what? For cell division. So this is why it's like that. We also have the cytoplasm. The cytoplasm is less dense in plant cell, but in the animal cell, it is dense and granular. In the plant cell, the starch granules are present in plant cell. Why animal cell, we don't have starch granules, we have what? Glycogen granules are present. And also in plant cell, there's a presence of a large central vacuole. Don't forget, vacuole is used for osmoregulator, for osmoregulation. That is the removal of excess water. While animal cells they have absence of small vacuole that is present. So that is that about differences between the plant cell and animal cell. Now let's talk about the cell theory. Some scientists, they have come together towards stating some theory about the cell. The first scientist to say something about the cell, to give a theory about the cell, is Robert Hooke. So he is the first scientist. He's also called the father of cell because of his experiment on cell. So the cell theory, in a summary, we have the cell theory in a summary here. All living organisms are composed of one or more cells. That is either the living organism is unicellular or living organism is multicellular. It is evident in amoeba, unicellular organism. Amoeba is unicellular, Euglena is unicellular, Paramecium is unicellular. All of these are unicellular organisms. They contain only one cell. Or they contain more cells. So this is the first theory for cell theory. This is the first statement for cell theory. Now, the cells is the structural and functional unit of all living organisms. That is, the basic organization of life is the cell, which implies that without the cell, the organisms can't undergo any function. It is the cell that enables organisms to undergo the characteristics of life. So this is the meaning of this statement. That is, without the cell, organisms won't be able to perform the simple characteristics of life, like excretion, reproduction, nutrition, etc. And another one, the third one here is that all existing cells come from pre-existing ones, or you say all existing cells comes from previously existing cells, which implies that no cell will just jump from heaven and start existing. No. You won't see any cell that just fall down from heaven and start existing and start working around. No, it's not possible. So if a cell is existing, it implies that there's a previous cell that gives rise to it. And it's like that. It continues like that. So for a cell to exist, it definitely have a predecessor. That is a cell that gives rise to that cell. So this theory, this statement was made by Rudolf von Wacker in 1855. And all existing cells, they come from previously existing cells. The next one here is a cell contains information for its structural and functional development in its nucleic acids. So the nucleic acid is the DNA, the RNA. DNA is the ribonucleic acid. The RNA is the ribonucleic acid. That is, this material, this acid contains information about the cell. So the information about you, as me as a human being, you as a human being, all our information is contained inside the DNA. That's to tell you how powerful the cell is. I've explained this before. All living things are either unicellular or multicellular. So there are still some other cell theory that is not mentioned here. That the plant cells are made up of cells, and the plants are also made up of cells. So this statement was made by Martin Skelding in 1838. That the plants are what also made up of what? Cells. And also, Sojos Kiwan in 1839 also makes this statement that the animal cells are also made up of cells. So these two statements, plant cells are also made up of cells, animal cells are also made up of cells. So give rise to the statement that the cell is the structural and functional unit of all living organisms. Because talking about living organisms, we are referring to just two things as living organisms, plant and animal. Plant and animal encompass all living organisms. Is that a living organism is a plant, or a living organism is an animal, with an exception to virus. And after all, even the virus contains a cell. So this is the cell theory. So did you understand? Lawal, do you understand? Hello, do you understand?
Yes, sir.
Hello, are you there?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Do you have any question?
No.
Huh?
No.
Do you have any question?
No.
Okay. Let me ask you a question. Out of the cell organelles, which one is regarded as the powerhouse of the cell? Are you with me? I said which of the cell organelles is regarded as the powerhouse of the cell. Hello. Laval. It is the mitochondria. The mitochondria is regarded as the powerhouse of the cell. We have the ribosome for the photosynthesis. These are the things you have to take note of. It is mitochondria is regarded as the powerhouse of the cell because it is the site where energy is being produced. That is why it's regarded as the powerhouse of the cell. We have ribosome for photosynthesis. We have the endoplasmic reticulum, the smooth and the rough, which enables passage of material. So, etc., etc. So you have to take notes of the functions of each cell organelles. So with this, we come to the end of today's class. Okay. Have a nice day.